The fortifications of the town of Rhodes are shaped like a defensive crescent around the medieval town and consist mostly in a modern fortification, composed of a huge wall made of an embankment encased in stone, equipped with scarp, bastions, moat, counterscarp and glacis. The portion of fortifications facing the harbour is instead composed of a crenellated wall. On the moles, towers and defensive forts are found. They were built by the Knights Hospitaller of St John by enhancing the existing Byzantine walls starting from 1309, the year in which they took possession of the island after a 3-year struggle. Like most of the defensive walls, they were built with a technique called rubble masonry, which allows for a great mass capable of withstanding the gunshots with smooth external stone faces to avoid climbing. The defense of different portions of fortifications was assigned to different lang of knights. The north face was under the rule of the Grand Master, then moving west and south the posts were held by the lang of France and Alvernia, the lang of Spain, the lang of Germany, and the lang of Italy. Bastions and turrets still hold the name of the lang involved. History. Due to its geographical position as a gate to the Aegean Sea, Rhodes has always had a vantage position on the trade routes between the west and the east and has been an important stop thanks to its well-protected harbours. During the Hellenistic period in the late 4th century BC, the famous Colossus of Rhodes was built to thank gods for the victory against Demetrius. Philo of Byzantium, author of the treatise Paraskeustica on defensive works, stayed in Rhodes in the 3rd century BC and expressed his admiration for its walls. The Rhodes earthquake of 226 BC severely damaged the fortifications, but they were soon rebuilt. The Byzantines built a fortress on the highest part of the town. When the Knight Hospitallers arrived, the town was still wealthy but in decline. Rhodes underwent an economical growth thanks to the richness that the knights brought in from the Holy Land and to the inheritance of the Templars. Assets given to the Hospitallers after the Templar order was suppressed in 1312 by decree of the King of France Philip IV. The richness of the island attracted the Ottomans from the nearby coast. The knights started continuous works on the fortifications, both to include the new villages in the south of the historical Byzantine town and to update the fortification to the new military defensive techniques after the artillery started to be used currently as a siege means. The Knights of St. John had had a long experience in building fortresses and fortifications during the almost 3 centuries of their stay in the Holy Land. Nevertheless, the reference model for the construction of the fortification were the Theodosian walls of Constantinople, which, during the centuries, had shown a great capacity to withstand sieges. The expansion of the walls was undertaken by Grand Master Antonio Fluvian de Riviere, who allowed the town of Rhodes to reach the current area of about 42 hectares. The wall curtain was finished between 1457 and 1465. The Byzantine fortifications were demolished, leaving just a portion of those of the old fort known at the time of knights as Colosseum. In 1440, the Mameluke Sultan of Egypt tried without success to conquer the town, sieging it for 40 days. In 1480, Rhodes was besieged by the troops of Mehmed II, but the powerful army of the conqueror of Constantinople, manned with 100,000 troops and 170 ships, was repelled by the courage of the knights and the strong fortifications, notwithstanding the outnumbering assailants. In 1481, a destructive earthquake struck the island, causing severe damages to the houses and the fortification and about 30,000 casualties. A new Ottoman siege could not be withstood, so the knights made available their great financial resources, and in a very short time the most important palaces of the town and the fortifications were rebuilt. In the following years, Grandmasters Pierre de Aubusson, Emery d'Amboise, Fabrizio del Carota and Philippe Villiers de l'Isle Adam ordered the fortifications to be rebuilt to withstand the cannons. For the purpose, they called to Rhodes the best Italian military architects. among them Matteo Giovanni, Basilio della Scuola, Gerolamo Bartolucci and Gabriele Tadino da Martinengo. The latter two were present in Rhodes during the final siege in 1522. The bastion of Italy, in which the Ottomans had opened a breach in 1480, was rebuilt with a powerful chemin de ronde for the reverse fire of cannons on the nearby spans of wall. This bastion was named Bastion del Carota, after the Grand Master. The Gate of St. John was closed, and a pentagonal bastion with the same name was built on the western side of the walls to guard Gate Damboise. After the Ottoman conquered Rhodes in 1522, they did not demolish the walls but repaired them and kept them under maintenance during the 4 centuries of their rule. The fortifications of Rhodes were frozen at 1522, so that Rhodes is the only European walled town that still shows the transition between the classical medieval fortification and the modern ones. The fortifications that still today make a belt around the medieval town, so that it is a separate neighbor from the new town, were restored during the Italian administration of the island and are, at present, being studied, restored and maintained. After their expulsion from Rhodes, the Hospitallers moved to the central Mediterranean island of Malta in 1530. They settled in the town of Birgu, and the first fortifications they built within the city were in a similar style to the fortifications of Rhodes. The gates of the old town of Rhodes. There are 11 gates to access the old city. Some of them are ancient, some are modern. The ancient Gate of St. George was closed by the Grand Master or Bastion after the siege of 1480 and transformed into a bastion. Starting from the palace of the Grand Master, that is from northwest towards the south there. Gate Damboise. The Damboise Gate is a grand gate just below the palace of the Grand Master. It has a triple defensive belt with chemins de ronde, 2 round towers and covered entrance. Remains of the ancient studded wood doors are still visible. The St. George Bastion, pentagonal in shape, covered with its cannons. The access through the gate. Gate of St. Athanasius. The Gate of St. Athanasius was built between 1441 and 1442. It is also known to locals as St. Francis Gate, since the Church of St. Francis of Assisi, built by the Italians, is just outside the gate. The round tower of St. Mary that controlled the entrance to the gate was built in 1441 by the Grand Master John de Lastic. According to the Turkish tradition, the troops of the conqueror Suleiman the Magnificent entered Rhodes through this gate. The gate was closed by the Sultan, who wished to avoid that any other conqueror could pass after him. Probably the door was closed by the Hospitallers for security reasons. It was reopened by the Italians in 1922 during the 400th anniversary of the conquest of Rhodes by the Ottomans. Gate of St. John. The Gate of St. John is commonly known as Koshkonau or Porta Coccini. According to the tradition, during the siege of 1522 there were so many fallen men in front of this gate that the stones were dyed red. The external fortification. The Gate of St. John was built by the Grand Master or Bastion to protect the previous fortifications built by Grand Masters Fluvian, Jacques d'Aemili and Pedro Raimundo Acosta. In 1912 the Italian troops entered the town through this gate. A frame, which is currently empty, hosted a commemorative stone. Acandia Gate. The Acandia Gate was opened by the Italian administration in 1935 in the segment of fortifications to the northeast of the Del Carota Bastion to connect the commercial harbour with the southeast zone of the town beyond the medieval town. For the occasion, a new street was outlined to connect Acandia Gate with the Gate of the Virgin. Gate of St. Catherine. The Gate of St. Catherine is also known as the Windmills Gate, since it allowed to reach the grain mills on the harbour mole from the commercial part of the town. Gate of the Virgin. The Gate of the Virgin is a modern gate, envisaged in the town master plan by the Italian administration to allow vehicle traffic, but opened only in 1955 by the Greek administration. Its name comes from the nearby Church of the Virgin of the Borough. The name Borough comes from the bourgeois who inhabited this part of the town. Marine Gate. The marine or sea gate was the main entrance to the town from the harbour. Its defensive towers have a representative task more than defence. In fact, due to the reduced space between the waterfront and the walls, no army could have ever attempted an attack from this side of the fortifications. During World War II, the Allied bombings destroyed the upper part of the North Tower. In 1951, the gate was restored by the Greek administration together with the Gate of St. Paul. Arnaldo Gate. The Arnaldo Gate is a small gate that gives access to the new Hospital of St. John, which hosts currently the Archaeological Museum of Rhodes. Gate of the Arsenal. The gate was built during the 14th century by the Grand Master Juan Fernández de Heredia, whose coat of arms stands on top of the gate. In 1908, the Ottoman administration demolished the side towers to widen the access road to the Colonna harbour. Today, thanks to the direct connection with the Liberty Gate, it allows a fast flow of vehicles between the Colonna harbour and the new town. Gate of St. Paul. The gate was built in the second half of the 15th century to allow the access to the fortified city and the Colonna harbour. The Gate of St. Paul was almost completely demolished during World War II and was rebuilt together with Marine Gate in 1951. Liberty Gate. The Liberty Gate was opened by the Italians in 1924, who portrayed themselves as liberators from Ottoman rule. It is the main access to the Colonna harbour and allows the connection between the Colonna and Mandraki harbours. Although it is a modern gate, it was built respecting the architectural style of the medieval gates. The road that crosses it continues through the Arsenal Gate. Bastions and towers. Bastion of St George. It has a pentagonal shape and represents one of the examples of a gate transformed into a bastion through subsequent modifications that took place until the final siege of 1522. With the addition of the powerful turretline of Spain, the Bastion of St George is the model of the successive modern forts. Its final transformation was designed by the Italian architect Basilio della Scuola and carries coat of arms of the latest Grand Master in Rhodes, Felipe Villiers de l'Isle-Adam. Bastion of Italy. Post of Italy or del Carota Bastion. This is the place where the troops of Mehmed II breached the walls and were then repelled by the knights during the siege of 1481. Grand Master Fabrizio del Carota had it armoured with a chaume de ronde to hold cannon emplacements. Nailac Tower. It was built between 1396 and 1421 by the Grand Master Philibert de Nailac before the development of the cannons on the mole east of the Gate of St. Paul that closes the commercial harbour. It had a square shape like many other medieval towers and was 46 metres high. It was the terminal of the wall belt facing the harbour and was used as a watchtower. It was severely damaged during the earthquakes of 19th century and was demolished by the Ottoman administration. Windmills Tower. It is known as Tower of France or Tower of the Angel. It was one of the two towers protecting the commercial harbour. It was built on the natural mole east of the harbour by the Grand Master de Aubusson, who had the coat of arms of France placed on the tower. On the mole there were originally 13 windmills. Today only one is left. Tower and Fort of St. Nicholas. The Mandraki was the military harbour and was guarded by a tower built between 1464 and 1467 by the Grand Master Zacosta at the end of the natural mole. After the siege of Rhodes in 1480, the Grand Master de Aubusson added a bastion around the tower, transforming it into a guard fortress on the sea. Turretline of Spain. This turretline was built in the middle of the moat to gather the other two after the siege of 1480. It avoided that the cannon could have a free range on the walls and in case of the assailants invading the moat could be reached through underground passages that could be blown rapidly in case of withdrawal. In 1522 the Ottoman tried to undermine the turretplanes by tunneling under the moat. The turretline of Spain is placed in the southwest portion of the walls on the side of the Gate of St. Athanasius and was guarded by the knights. of the Lang of Spain. Terrepline of England, placed in the south side of the walls between the Gate of St Athanasius and the Gate of St John, was guarded by the Knights of the Lang of England. Terrepline of Italy. The Terrepline of Italy was placed in the southeast portion of the wall just north of the Bastion of Italy and guarded by the Knights of the Lang of Italy. It was partially demolished and split into three portions by the Italian administration to open the Acandia Gate. The medieval town of Rhodes, contained within the Fortifications of Rhodes, is the largest active medieval town in Europe with over 6,000 inhabitants. The medieval town, as well as being part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site, is also a major tourism attraction. The medieval town contains a number of sites, including the Clock Tower, Socrates Square, the Jewish Square, the Old Haman Suleiman Mosque, Socrates Street, the Street of the Knights, and the Palace of the Grand Master of the Knights of Rhodes. The medieval town contains a number of different architectural styles, due to its history. The town mostly developed under the Knights of St John, which accounts for its predominantly Gothic architecture. However, after the Second Siege of Rhodes, a medieval town was also developed in the Ottoman era. New buildings were constructed, including mosques, public baths and mansions for the new patrons. The architectural significance of Rhodes is summarized by UNESCO when it states, with its Frankish and Ottoman buildings, the Old Town of Rhodes is an important ensemble of traditional human settlement, characterized by successive and complex phenomena of acculturation. Contact with the traditions of the Dodecanese changed the forms of Gothic architecture and building after 1523, combined vernacular forms resulting from the meeting of two worlds with decorative elements of Ottoman origin. All the built-up elements dating before 1912 have become vulnerable because of the evolution in living conditions, and they must be protected as much as the great religious, civil and military monuments, the churches, monasteries, mosques, baths, palaces, forts, gates and ramparts. The medieval town of Rhodes has been the set of a number of movies, including The Guns of Navarone. Bibliography: David Nicole, Knights of Jerusalem. The Crusading Order of Hospitallers 1100 to 1565. Osprey Publishing, 2008. Gino Manicone, Rodi Sposa del Sol, Casamari, La Monastica, 1992. Ministry of Culture, Works Supervision Committee for the Monuments of the Medieval Town of Rhodes. Medieval Town of Rhodes, Restoration Works. Part 1. Rhodes. 2001. Ministry of Culture, Works Supervision Committee for the Monuments of the Medieval Town of Rhodes. Medieval Town of Rhodes, Restoration Works. Part 2. Rhodes. 2001.